How's it going, everybody? Thank you very much for watching. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr., and welcome to another classic movie review. I'm talking about a film that came out in 1960, Spartacus, from the legendary Stanley Kubrick. This is one of those old-fashioned Hollywood epics, and this is one of those 3-hour films, 3-hour plus, with an overture, has an intermission in the middle, and this really is one of the great all-time historical epics. This film stars Kirk Douglass in the title role as Spartacus. You have Lawrence Olivier as the main antagonist, plays Crassus, I believe. You also have Charles Lawton as Senator Gracchus, Tony Curtis as Antoninus, and Gene Simmons as Verenia, our love interest to the main hero. And I believe an actor named John Gavin plays Julius Caesar. John Gavin, for those of you that have seen Psycho, was the boyfriend to the Janet Leigh, Marion Crane character in that film. So a lot of really cool actors in this movie. This is one of those movies that inspired countless other movies, countless other TV shows. Of course, you know, nowadays you have this new show, Spartacus, Blood and Sand, and even something like Gladiator borrows heavily from this classic film. This movie starts out with our main character, a slave, and he is sold to a gladiator school, learns how to fight, learns how to become a gladiator, and after something that causes everyone to start rebelling, and of course our main character sort of begins this fight to rebel, they overtake the people, their captors at this school, and from there it sort of builds and builds, and they keep recruiting more and more people that are persecuted by the Romans and seek out to basically free the slaves. And this is a really great story. Kirk Douglass is amazing in the role of Spartacus. He is present in every scene. He has a great screen presence. He really does command the screen. He got himself into great physical shape for this role. He's great in the battle scenes. There's some great monologues that he has. Sort of gives me a Braveheart, Mel Gibson vibe at times. And the battle scenes are something to behold in this movie. For a 1960s film, especially early 1960s, this movie has some great action scenes. There is some bloody carnage that will take you by surprise for such an old film. Definitely took me by surprise. And I have a feeling that's one of the things that was accomplished because this film had a director like Stanley Kubrick, someone that was not one to compromise a vision. Even though for the most part I understand upon doing my research that this movie was more or less kind of a paycheck for him compared to his later films where he really got to express his artistic vision a lot more, like say The Shining or Clockwork Orange. But yeah, Spartacus really does feel more like a classic, streamlined, old school Hollywood epic. There's one great scene with our main antagonist, played by Laurence Olivier, where he is sort of grooming a character of Antoninus, played by Tony Curtis, who is one of the slaves that he has him giving him a bath and sort of washing him up. And as he's talking, as they're having a conversation, he's making these insinuations about eating snails and oysters. This entire conversation involving eating snails and oysters and preferring one to the other or wanting to eat both of them is really the way the Crassus character lets the Antoninus character know that he likes men and women. And so he's sort of recruiting a sex slave. And the subtext in the dialogue is handled expertly by Stanley Kubrick. And it's one of my favorite scenes in the film. Another great aspect of this film, besides the battle scenes and the war conflict, is the love story between Verenia and Spartacus. Verenia played by actress Gene Simmons. Their scenes do get pretty risque for a couple of scenes for a film from the early 60s. And that's another thing that this movie pushes the boundaries of in terms of progressing cinema. There is an argument that could be made that because the 1950s was this era of suppression and movies were forced to remove anything that looked like sexuality or any kind of brief nudity or anything like that, or even violence, violence that was heavy on blood that wasn't really allowed at the time, there's definitely an argument that the late 50s and early 60s movies like Spartacus definitely helped the progression of cinema in terms of what cinema was allowed to have. And especially in a mainstream, big budget Hollywood epic like this was a film that paved the way for more films to follow in terms of what it could be allowed to depict, in terms of its violence. Of course, I mentioned that arm coming off in that battle scene, and even the way that there are scenes in this movie, one scene in particular that handles sort of brief nudity in a very skillful way, with Verinia taking a bath in the lake and the way leaves are sort of covering her up, not being able to show anything and sort of restrict themselves and limit themselves, was slowly broken little by little by filmmakers like Billy Wilder and John Ford and, of course, Sam Peckinpah and the great Stanley Kubrick. And so Spartacus is another great leap forward for film in those terms. So this is one of those movies that I recommend to anybody that loves a big Hollywood scale epic, great historical piece, great period piece, and just an overall great film. This is one of those movies that cinephiles should seek out, if not just to watch Spartacus, but to see another great work from the great Stanley Kubrick, a director that I have tremendous respect for and pushed the medium of film forward every time he made a movie. So this is definitely a 4-star classic. Check this movie out. I think this is available on Peacock, Universal Pictures film, but hard copies are out there. And this is my Blu-ray. That's Kirk Douglass there on the cover. And this is definitely a classic that everyone should watch, especially if you like movies like Gladiator. So check out Spartacus. It's out there. It's waiting for you. Gonna get out of here. Thank you very much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. Please comment and share, all that good stuff. Till next time, thank you.